This is the Northern...
Welcome everybody to the 39th meeting of the Economy Committee. Some members will be attending this morning's meeting via video conference and are...
No witnesses today, Chair.
So the meeting will be broadcast live and a recording will be made available on the committee's web pages on the Assembly website. Could I ask members to mute their tablet devices, please?
There's a mouse in somebody's system or something.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on then, apologies. We have apologies from Claire this morning and we're expecting Gordon
later on, yeah. Chair.
Okay, so moving on then to item number 2, which is draft minutes. There is a copy of the draft minutes of the meeting from the 4th of November at page 5 of your packs. Are members content that those are an accurate reflection of the meeting?
Agreed. Yes.
Thank you.
So moving on then to item number 3, Chair's Business, and I have a couple of items under Chair's Business this morning. First of all, at page 12 of your packs, there's a memo from the committees, from the CLG on committee rotas and meeting times. This is in order to address the current issues relating to statutory and standing committees' use of star leave and to allow adequate time for cleaning and broadcasting requirements. So the committee's next 3 short meetings finishing at noon will be next week, the 18th of November, the 9th of December and the 27th of January. These meetings will take place in room 29, so we're in the other room next week. And members will receive reminders of that before those meetings, so unless members have any comments on that.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Secondly, the Chairperson's Liaison Group last week agreed that there will be a short suspension of committee meetings this morning from 10:50 to 11:20 to allow members and staff the opportunity to pay their respects on Remembrance Day. So,
Chair, that's a misprint. It should be 10:40. I think. Yeah.
I have 2 things to do in respect of that, so I'll probably leave a little earlier.
Chair, we should be quoted on that one. We're all right.
Okay, so then moving on. Earlier this week, I had met with some bus tour operators here in the city, and they have indicated they're not part of any of the strategy groups or any of those kind of groups that are involved in that tourism policy development in relation to the recovery plans for the sector, and also that obviously being coach or bus operators, they haven't yet received any funding, so hopefully they will be included in the scheme that the Infrastructure Minister is bringing forward. But they have also highlighted that they form part of the supply chain for the hospitality and tourism sectors, which have been forced to close, and so it would be hoped that they would perhaps be considered therefore in the Part B of the Coronavirus Business Restriction Support Scheme. So if members were willing to agree to it, we would write to the Minister and ask that she address those issues.
Yeah, Chair, I think that's really important. As you know, my office is in Sandy Row, and just round the corner is the headquarters for one of the bus tour operators, and I mean, that sector is just being slaughtered. Yeah. So I think it is really important that their voice is heard. So I'm happy to second that proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And then an additional item, as members will be aware, the Domestic Abuse and Family Proceedings Bill is currently waiting consideration stage. The issue of paid special leave for victims of domestic abuse isn't within the remit of the Justice Department in that bill, but it has been supported by both the Justice and Health Committees, and the Economy Minister has agreed to consider the ideas if there's consensus to move ahead, that she will seek a suitable legislative vehicle to do so. Additionally, there are a number of support groups have suggested that the South's legal provision for 10 days paid leave be considered. So if members were willing to agree, we would ask that we would write to the Minister to support those views around needing to adopt paid special leave for victims of domestic abuse, and we could therefore have that as a committee position to respond to the bill.
Agreed.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then a final item, members likely heard the Minister responding to questions earlier in the week in relation to the restrictions, and had outlined a figure of 400 million of a cost to the local economy. So if members were willing, we would ask that the Department share that analysis with us.
Agreed.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And a final item then, Peter, VAT on PPE that you're going to speak
Chair,
to.
it looks as though we are now in a position, as of the end of October, that here locally there is VAT payable on imported PPE if it's coming from the EU, whereas the same doesn't apply if it's being imported into GB. If members were content, I know I find it hard to understand. It appears to have been a failure to include Northern Ireland in provisions in terms of some kind of directive. I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it, but it was brought to my attention and it concerned me. Hence, I'm sharing that concern with members. So if we can write to probably the Economy and Finance Ministers, just to clarify what's going on there, because obviously we don't want a situation where it's going to cost more for us to have PPE imported in. Preferably, obviously, we want to manufacture it locally, but if members are content, we try and clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, then we're going to move to item number 5, matters arising, and deal with those issues, and we'll try to deal with what's on the agenda before the break. So matters arising then at page 18 of your pack, 5.1, the departmental response relating to due diligence on the FTC for Ulster University. At the meeting on the 30th of September, members received a briefing from the department on October monitoring round. Members asked the department to provide a written update on whether due diligence regarding the FTC for the UU has been carried out. The recommendations have been made for UU to follow to allow the FTC loan to proceed. So unless members have any further comments, we'll be noting.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so 5.2 then, at page 20, there's correspondence from the Lord Speaker in Westminster from the Welsh, to the Lord Speaker in Westminster from the Welsh Government regarding the IEM Bill amendments in order to urge members of the Lords to consider tabling these to address the concerns with the bill, which as drafted the Welsh Government believes would fundamentally undermine the devolution settlement. I think that has now passed.
Yeah, we just really, Chair, included that because it mentioned us. So we just wanted members to be aware.
5.3 then, at page 42 of your pack, there's correspondence from the Secretary of State from the Chair of the NI Affairs Committee in relation to how the British Government plans to replace EU structural and investment funds with the Shared Prosperity Fund. The committee has already registered concerns of stakeholders here regarding the lack of clarity around that fund, and the Finance Minister addressed it yesterday in the budget response as well. So it's to note unless members have any comments.
Chair, can the clerk tell us, or can anybody just tell us exactly what the sort of transition date should be from one scheme to the other?
There are varying answers to that,
What's the
unhelpfully.
And what's the earliest scheme? Could we get a list of potential former schemes and how they,
probably makes a lot
a
more
bit of
sense
a spreadsheet on that
Yeah,
one?
the essentially all of the money other than the likes of Peace and so on would cease, I think, either next year or the year after, but we'll get a full list.
Yeah.
The department will be able to do that for us.
Okay. Because they're helpful to see just where the risk points are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. 5.4 then, at page 44 of your pack's correspondence from the Renewable NI to the Audit Office regarding the NIRU report and a number of complaints they have stemming from that. And just to remind members, the PAC has asserted primacy on this issue, so are members content that we forward that correspondence to the PAC?
Yep. Thank you.
5.5 then, at page 50, there's a press release from for the UK statement following the 4th meeting of the Northern Ireland Specialised Committee between the UK Government and the European Commission. So while the presser indicates that businesses here will now be able to reclaim VAT when trading in goods with the EU, it also highlights a number of issues that remain outstanding, including those around the supply of goods to supermarkets here. And we've seen some of the additional commentary around that this week as well. So it's to note unless members have any comments.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Again, Chair, there will be a cost associated with this for businesses to actually do the paperwork. Can we see if we can seek to identify what those costs would be?
Will do. Thanks, Chair.
So then at page 51 of your pack, there's a joint letter from the Committee on the Administration of Justice regarding citizens' rights, Frontier Workers EU Exit Regulations 2020, forwarded from the Committee for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. Last week we had already considered this letter and members agreed to send a response noting the issues were of close interest, and that we would be grateful if CAJ could forward on any responses that they receive. to their letter. So it's to note unless members have any comments. Okay. At page 17 of table papers then, there is a letter to the Minister from the Chair drafted by the Clerk in
I
relation...
should say proposed, not purpose. Chair, my apologies.
regarding the EAG's terms of reference. So our members have had a chance to look at that, and are they content with?
Chair, can I come in here?
Yep.
I think I would like to minute my observation that that letter is fine as far as it goes, but it certainly doesn't reflect what I raised last week at the committee. First of all, I think just the wording of it is in paragraph 4, it leaves a lot to be desired. Members also considered that there are pockets of serious deprivation right across our communities. These are identified as existing across our council areas in a range of studies and regular statistical analysis. I'm not talking about pockets. You know, we've had misery and the unemployment figures released yesterday, and the unemployment for Derry City and Strabane, the entire district, the entire local authority, is sitting at 7.1% unemployment. Compare that to South Belfast, which is sitting at probably, I think it's 4.3 or 4.5, North Down 4.3, Lagan Valley 4.1. We're not talking pockets here. I'm talking about a considerable sub-regional imbalance in our economy in Northern Ireland. It was referenced in New Decade, New Deal, our new approach, that we would look at the sub-regional differences and make sure that we get support right into those areas that have been left behind for decades. That pockets of serious deprivation doesn't wear it with me, and it's not a reflection of what I said, what I raised. And what I'm saying is that every arm's length body, every department within government should have a work programme that deals with sub-regional imbalance. It was committed to by all parties in the executive as they resumed and took up their positions in January, and I have yet to see the outworkings of that in anything that has happened to date within the executive, and it's just not good enough. And I'm going to come back here every single week into this this committee, because this is the committee that drives the economy. This is the committee that scrutinises the economy. And if we don't work at trying to raise the level of economic betterment and development for the whole of Northern Ireland, then we too have all failed, and we've failed collectively. I'm not talking about streets. I'm not talking about estates. I'm saying that there's pockets of wealth in Derry and Strabane, but there is a whole region of deprivation in my city and region. And it's not just there, it's the west of the province. And that doesn't reflect it. And in fact, I was really angry when I seen that letter and seen it signed by the committee, because that's not what the conversation was about last week.
Christopher.
If the executive's failing, I suggest you take it up with your minister in the executive. In terms of the terminology used in that letter, the fact is that there are super output areas, there are council areas, there are different ways in which the country is divided up geographically. And I can give you an excellent example of a pocket of deprivation in my own constituency. Tachmona is a housing estate which is in the middle of the Upper Malone ward. So if you look at a ward level, and simply at that level, you would assume that it's extremely well off. But it is a pocket of deprivation. It's an island of need in a sea of plenty. Similarly, there are vast swathes of North and West Belfast that can appropriately be described not as pockets of deprivation, but as huge areas of deprivation. And I think it is important, of course, we should support regional balance and in terms of ensuring that there's greater infrastructure investment, particularly infrastructure. If only you had some influence there. I think it's important that we secure greater infrastructure investment, particularly into the west, to improve the roads network and all of those other things that come from that. But I think it's important also that we recognise that there is need throughout Northern Ireland, whether it's north, south, east or west. And, just as the Deputy Chair is saying, every week she intends to come to this committee to emphasise the needs of her constituency. That's her absolute right. She would be failing in her job if she didn't do that. But every week when she does that, I will point out that there is need throughout this community, throughout Northern Ireland. And there are pockets of deprivation throughout every one of our constituencies. Stuart represents East Antrim. If you were to look at somewhere like Jordanstown, you would assume that there's great wealth there. But I'm sure he can say that there's pockets of deprivation in around Jordanstown. Of course there are.
Next door is Monkstown.
Exactly. So I think it's dangerous if we go down the road of trying to pit one community against another. I think we all recognise that there's need throughout the community, throughout Northern Ireland, and it's our job to try and address that need in the best way that we can. So I'm perfectly comfortable with the terminology used in the letter.
Chair, if I can I used pockets because I was conscious of the fact that wards was too big an area.
Yes.
And I didn't want to put SOAs because it seemed a bit overly technical, but I can replace it with that because that effectively reflects exactly what the Deputy Chair, Mr. Stalford, is saying, and that's the measurement used to look at where deprivation can be targeted. It's done on those statistical analysis rather than, if you look at the criteria for lots of schemes that are designed to meet deprivation, that's what they use.
And can I also say, Chair, I am becoming increasingly tired of this stereotyping of my constituency. If you live in the market, if you live in Donegal Pass, if you live in Sandy Row, or the Donegal Road, or the Village, or the Beaver Estate, or the Woodstock Road, or the bottom of the Ravenhill Road, or Ballynafy, you're not living in an area of plenty. So, I just think it's really important that we don't go down the road of pitting one community against another. Where there's regional imbalance and need, of course we should work to address that, particularly in the realm of infrastructure, where there is clearly need to improve infrastructure out west. But I don't want us to be going down this road. I think it's dangerous.
Thanks, Christopher. John?
Chair, can I come in there?
Sorry, John's coming in first.
Okay.
The wording of the letter isn't, if I was sitting down to write a letter, this wouldn't be my letter. But it's a bit like the difficulties we're having in the executive at the minute. When you're working with a 5-party committee, you have to try and reach a compromise in terms of the wording that you send out from that committee. I agree with Sinead's commentary around deprivation, the history of it, where it is, and it needs tackled. I've no dispute with that at all. And as I say, if I was writing this letter, it would be a completely different letter. But I think the objective here is to get a letter from the committee which raises those concerns in a way which identifies Christopher's concerns, my concerns, Sinead's concerns, and move forward. Now, the clerk had made a suggestion there about changing this. So what would read, members also consider that there are super output areas.
Chair, we can also add to that the actual data, which will reflect what members have actually said. It shows the areas in the northwest, in South Belfast, in all other constituencies.
Can I just make
allows you to
a
see that.
suggestion that we note the NDNA terminology, which is top priority of the executive, will be to develop a regionally balanced economy with opportunity for all.
Yes.
Yes, that's fine. Absolutely.
Okay.
Through the chair, I agree with Kiva there that we've got to go back to the new decade, new approach. In the absence of programme for government, that's all we've got at the moment. And there was a number of principles that were accepted by all parties in that programme for government. And in paragraph page 27, paragraph 4.64, it says investment will be delivered at a regional and sub-regional level on the basis of objective need. In order to drive inclusive growth. Now, honestly, Christopher and all members, I am not pitting one region against another, but I am saying a principle for a programme for government is about driving sub-regional development. It's important for Northern Ireland, it's important for each and every area within Northern Ireland, and it needs to be driven in every government department within Northern Ireland and every arm's reach body that we set up. We've got to adhere to the principle that this executive all signed up to and has promised to deliver. And so they have to benchmark and make sure every work programme has a sub-regional focus. And if they don't do that, they will fail the people of all of Northern Ireland.
Thanks. Can I suggest that you
Redraft and recirculate, and we'll seek agreements by correspondence,
Yes.
Chair? Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you. So we're moving on then to 5.9. At page 21 of your table papers, there is an Executive Office DALO response regarding the High Streets Task Force. The paper attached describes a range of relevant existing initiatives ranging from public realm interventions in support of high-profile events, city deals and the ongoing Belfast City Centre Regeneration Task Force, as well as outlining the composition of the task force and the focus of its work. And I'm sure this is something members will want to return to at a later date, and we can seek updates.
Chair, I think we might have missed 5.8.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to get it on record.
So are members content to note 5.9 for now? Okay, so 5.8 then, at page 19 of the table pack, is a clerk's memo from the PAC to the clerk of the committee regarding case study 10 of the audit office's major capital projects report, the UU Belfast campus expansion project. The PAC has now asserted its primacy on this issue, and the Economy Committee must now step back from it until the PAC's work is concluded. So are members content?
Yes. Yep, thank you.
So 5.10 then, page 26 of table pack, is a response from St Mary's University College in relation to COVID cases and information collection. The response indicates that as teaching has moved online and students are not on campus, that the University College does not have up-to-date information. And if we maybe just take it in conjunction with 5.11 then, in terms of Stranmillis University College in relation to COVID cases and information collection. This response indicates the University College collects information through a dedicated email address, as well as a quantum of tests and cases so far. So do members have any comments they want to make? John?
The Stranmillis response is, I have to say, is a bit more detailed than the St Mary's one, and there seems to be, as you said, dedicated email, etc., for recording students, even if they're off-site. And I'm sure St Mary's would be aware of who's not studying because they're self-isolating or they're unwell. If you're unwell, you can't study. So it's a pity there's not more information available there. But the point I do want to make is I had raised with the Minister on Monday or Tuesday in the Chamber around the initiatives that have been taken by the Scottish Government. I think there was £1.3 million towards health and mental health and well-being of students. And I have to say the Minister's response was very positive. That I asked her to engage with the Health Minister about bringing forward a similar package, and she said she would. Would it be possible for the committee to write to the department, just ask for it to be kept updated on that?
Chair, we have letters in to the Minister and the Health Minister about specific mental health support for students. Those maybe went in a couple of weeks ago, so it would be useful now to find out exactly where they've gone and what's happened across the executive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay then, moving on to item number 6, there's an SL1 posted workers, agency workers order in Northern Ireland, and there is a clerk's memo at page 58 of your packs and correspondence from the DALO at page 60. The department proposes to make a statutory rule under powers conferred by section 2 of the European Communities Act 1972 and article 28 of the Industrial Tribunals NI Order 1996. The purpose of this SR is to transpose amendments to the EU Posting of Workers Directive here. The directive establishes the employment rights and protections that apply to a worker when they are posted, i.e. sent temporarily to another EU member state. The hirer of an agency worker will have to inform the agency if the worker is sent to work in an EU state. The proposed order will be subject to negative resolution procedure, and it is intended it will come into operation on the day after it is made. This means that it will break the 21-day rule. The rule should have been transposed by the 30th of July. However, this deadline was not met, and as the EU has notified the UK that it intends to begin infraction, there is a need to have the order in place. This is the committee's opportunity to consider the policy as laid out in the SL1, as it's not possible to amend once the rule has been made and laid in the Assembly Business Office. So are members content with the policy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on then to item number 7, which is an SL1, the Health and Safety Consequential Amendments EU Exit Regulations NI 2020. There's a clerk's memo at page 68 and a correspondence from the DALO at page 70. The department proposes to make an SR under powers conferred by section 11 and paragraph 11A1 of Schedule 2 to the European Union Withdrawal Act 2018, 2018 C16. The main purpose of the SR is to replace references to exit day in certain legislation amended by those regulations with IP completion day. This SR does not make any policy changes but will ensure that our statute book operates properly following IP completion day at the end of the transition period. The proposed order will be subject to negative resolution procedure, and it is intended the rule would come into operation immediately before IP completion day, breaking the 21-day rule. This is the committee's opportunity to consider the policies set out in the SL1, as it's not possible to amend once the rule has been laid. Are members content with the policy as outlined?
Thank you, Chair.
And then item number 8, SL1 priority dispatch provisions of the EU Electricity Recast Regulation 2019. There's a clerk's memo at page 74 and correspondence from the DALO at page 76. The department proposes to make an SR under the powers conferred by section 2.2 of the European Communities Act 1972. The statutory rule, which is intended to come into operation on the day after it is made, breaking the 21-day rule, will amend the Electricity Priority Dispatch Regulations NI 2012 to confer with Article 12 of the EU Electricity Recast Regulations 2019. The SR is subject to negative resolution procedure before the Assembly, and this is the committee's opportunity to consider the policy set out in the SL1, as it's not possible to amend once the rule has been laid. Are members content with the policy direction?
Thank you.
Item number 9 then, SR 2020-236, the Insolvency Amendment 2016 Act Commencement number 2 and Saving Provision Order Northern Ireland 2020. The Insolvency Amendment 2016 Act Commencement number 2 is at page 80 of your packs. The SR does not require it being laid, as it is a commencement order and is therefore for information only. So members content to note.
Yeah.
Item number 10 then, SR 2020-211, the Corporate Insolvency and Governance Act 2020, Coronavirus Amendment, a relevant period for meetings of registered societies and credit unions regulations, Northern Ireland 2020. The approved version of the Corporate Insolvency and Governance Act 2020, Coronavirus Amendment of relevant periods for meetings of registered societies and credit unions is at page 85 of your packs. The committee has previously agreed to the SR, and this version rectifies a typo. Okay, so members can take note. Okay, moving on then to correspondence. At page 88 of your packs is correspondence from the department to ESF project promoters in relation to receiving an update on funding from priority 1 and 2 beneficiaries supported by the European Social Fund programme, which is due to end in March 2022. So it's to note unless there's any comments.
Can I just make a comment there, Chair, please?
Yep.
I think it might be worthwhile to invite NICFA in just to hear from their perspective what their thoughts are on this ESF project and just the funding going forward. It might be worthwhile to get to touch base with NICFA.
Chair, we may actually have more gaps in our forward work programme than we anticipated. We've done some rearranging with the department, so we might be able to get them up pretty soon.
Yeah.
We'll try for that.
And there's a few other things.
There's a few others we want to try and get up as well.
Okay.
But we see. I'm going to suggest we try and get them in next week because we've now got a gap.
Okay.
But we'll see how they go with that. Chair, thank you.
Thanks.
I do think this is going to be a big issue going forward, so we would need to maybe just get a good briefing on it.
Thanks, Sinead. 11.2 then, at page 90 of your packs, correspondence from NUS-USI regarding student travel over the Christmas period. NUS-USI is seeking greater clarity on how strategies around student travel over the Christmas period and return to campus for semester 2 is being planned. So if members are happy, we will correspond with the department and raise these issues that have been highlighted. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Chair,
Yeah.
it's on the news this morning that
Yeah.
students can travel home. When you read the news story, it's students can travel home from England, but it doesn't clarify what's happening in Scotland or Wales. And indeed, I don't think we have a position here, but students travelling from here across to Britain. So can we get some clarity?
Yeah.
Exactly what was announced this morning, who it affects, and vice versa?
Yeah.
Sure, did you want to come in, or was it a similar point?
Yeah, it was the same point, but just a little more detail. There was quite a bit of detail about students over a 2-week period where the university would effectively say you can go today or tomorrow. It's quite a controlled situation. Somebody has clearly thought about it, and clearly there's been little or no thought about it here.
But again, it doesn't clarify Wales or Scotland. It's
No,
England. It refers to England.
specifically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. 11.3, then there is correspondence at page 91 from Fermanagh and Omagh District Council in relation to Project Stratum. Council members are concerned that rural areas most in need will not be prioritised in the rollout of the programme. So are members content to receive a briefing from the council? And Peter, I think we're expecting some...
We are. We've had a couple of delays on our Project Stratum update around the warning of contracts. It should have happened, but I'm not saying there are delays or anything like that. It's just it hasn't. In fact, maybe I shouldn't comment. But it has meant that our briefing has been delayed on that.
The Minister referred to yesterday or Monday in the Chamber, and it was almost at completion. So
It's very close. It is very close.
Thanks, Pete. Sure. So at page 92 then of your packs, there is the 27th report of the Examiner of Statutory Rules. Is to note unless members have any comments.
Noted.
11.5 then at page 29 of table pack, there's correspondence from an individual in regards the TUI Belfast-based furlough extension refusal. As this is a dispute between employers and workers, it is not really appropriate for the committee to intervene, but if members are content, we will forward the correspondence to the Finance Minister, as it appears to be an issue in which he may be able to seek advice.
Agreed. Thank you, Chair.
And then if we move on, agenda number 12, the Forward Work Programme is at page 101 of your packs for November and December, and at page 32 there's an updated Forward Work Programme for November and December 2020. So that's probably...
Those are now wrong, Chair. Those are now wrong, and we will be putting a new one in the new pack for next week.
So then moving on to number 13 is any other businesses. Businesses.
Don't go down that road.
Nobody has indicated anything, so...
Not that I'm aware of, Chair, and that probably gives us a useful point to suspend.
So will we be coming back live, or will we go straight into closed session after the
We're going to
break?
go straight into the closed session. I've warned broadcasting, but we've warned them again because I'm just thinking they won't get the red light. So yes, that's our intention.
Okay, well look, thanks members.
Okay.
Right there.
Thank you.
30. This is the Northern Ireland Assembly Committee room.